Hey everybody, welcome back to another Small Business Spotlight. It's been a while since I did one of these, so I apologize for the hiatus, but I got a good one for you today. So Catherine Chadwick has become a good friend of mine. She's awesome, another entrepreneur and multi-talented person, but she likes to identify as a mental health, I guess right, fitness trainer, which I love because it's not just physical fitness, but it's also mental health fitness.
Okay.
Catherine, welcome to the show. Thanks so much. I keep saying show, but welcome to the stream today, and thanks so much for joining us.
Well, Drew, thanks for having me. I'm delighted to see you and have this conversation with you. This is great.
Yeah, absolutely. So, mental health fitness trainer, tell us how you got to how you arrived at that, and where did that comes from for you?
Well, I am a nurse by profession. I graduated with a bachelor's in nursing in the late 70s. And my first nursing job was actually working ICU, and that was a bit like trial by fire. But boy, did I learn a lot, right? so,
Right.
and that progressed into various, arenas in the nursing, profession. And then I'd always played a lot of sports, so I actually understood a lot about systems management. In fact, when I was in college, I worked weekends as a nurse's aide, so I could understand the systems and get a lot of those basic skills under my belt, and it helped me progress very quickly within the nursing arena. And I actually took karate, and I have a third degree black belt in karate. So I understand systems and application and self discipline and fresh mind and, being open to solutions and whatnot. So it was probably, I think around 2016 or 17, I went for a certification in applied positive psychology. And then I got ideas for home care and initiated a wellness education and management business of You've Got Nurse. And at that point, I also had received the download for the sunshine quotient, which
Mhm.
is a term that refers to lighting gradients in photography and radiology. But I immediately applied it to people because I was just like, oh my gosh, I absolutely understand this. And I started using that concept as a tool to teach mindfulness to people because it's visceral and it's visual. It's an easy concept to grasp. And the physiological part of that is when you take in that deep breath, you're stimulating the vagus nerve, which connects you to the parasympathetic side of your nervous system, the calming side of your nervous system. So there is definitely a physiological connection there as to why it works. And if you add in the visualization and the imagination of just breathing in the sunlight and
Mhm.
feel yourself starting to fill up with the sunlight and glowing from the inside out, and your heart's getting bigger and your heart's glowing, and you can feel the warmth of it on your skin, because the mind does not differentiate between what you perceive as being real at this moment and what it imagines.
Right.
And so, yeah, and it's pretty hard to be cranky when you feel like you're glowing from the inside out, right? So,
Absolutely.
right. So I just love teaching that to people, and I have progressed from there. I use this all the time, but I also have received my certification in transformational coaching, and so I do like that. But it's really training. It's making that decision
Mhm.
that there are changes that you want to make, and understanding about a little bit. I teach people about the mind diet. What you feed your mind absolutely affects your physical being, because your body is the subconscious. So let's work on the conscious mind to give you the best beautiful result that you're looking for.
I love that. And do you mind sharing a little bit to just kind of define, let people know, for those who don't know what the sunshine quotient is, the original term, what it means? Do you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Oh, absolutely. It's a term that refers to lighting gradients in photography and radiology. And it was actually interesting how I landed on that, because people were saying to me, "Oh my gosh, you're just so bright all the time. What are you doing?" And I'd say, "Oh, I have a high sunshine quotient." And I thought, I know what I'm feeling, but how do I articulate this to people? So I actually Googled it.
Mhm.
And that's how I found out what the term actually meant. And I was just like, no wonder. I totally get this.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love that. And so when you're working with folks, what do you notice as kind of some of the most common, I would say, I don't want to say symptoms per se, because it's not a medical per se thing, but symptoms. What do you notice as the most common things that people present to when they come to you and they're like, I want to look at my mindfulness. I want to figure out how I can be more at peace.
It's typically, it's that often that common phrase of people are feeling stuck.
Mhm.
They know that there's more to living than what they're actually experiencing. They have pretty much succumbed to the what I refer to as the societal expectations, and that doesn't really come from anybody's unique heart or purpose.
Right.
And sometimes it does, and but typically people go through a little bit of a journey to actually discover that for themselves. So I like to do what I call reintroducing them to themselves,
Mhm.
and that's a process as well. Often people come to me because they know that I am a nurse, and they're not feeling well, and they have either they're going through some sort of transition. Either they've just had surgery, they're facing surgery, they are uh, having a little bit of a challenge with weight loss,
Mhm.
or changing habits that they know are not good for them, but they haven't discovered the process, or the language really yet to make the changes that they want to make for themselves.
Yeah. And I want to go back to something you said earlier about the mind not differentiating between, what it perceives and what's reality, so to speak, right? And you use the word reality very loosely, right? Tell me more how you kind of blend that with your clients and how you help them to kind of make that adjustment for themselves to understand that, when you're perceiving something, it becomes very real and very visceral very quickly.
Yes. Well, it's fascinating because we think about 70,000 thoughts in a day, and about 90% of those or more are from the day before and the day before and the day before and the day before. So well, I refer to it as most everybody's dragging the yesterdays along with them.
Mhm.
And with that are beliefs that have been typically handed to them and handed down from generation to generation without evaluation. And well, this is just the way life is. And I believe that if you I actually encourage people to get up and move to a different seat at the table, and look at things from a different perspective,
Mhm.
and say, well, what if? What are the steps that I can take to make this different for me? What and do a self evaluation, and then and if you teach them that everything comes from imagination, thoughts turn to things. When you think about, gosh, the lights that are lighting us up right now, if Edison hadn't been working on his imagination, we
Mhm.
wouldn't have the light bulb and all of these things, all these inventions that we use and appreciate every day. Everything comes from imagination, because it's always the what if, and the being, looking for the solution, right?
Yeah. And I love that idea about shifting perspective, just a different seat. It reminds me of, and of course, I'm going to do a movie reference because I'm me, but I'm familiar with the Dead Poet Society with Robin Williams back in the day.
Yes.
Great movie, sad but great movie. And the scene that I'm thinking of is when he has the students get up on the desks and look around the room.
Mhm.
It's like just change your perspective, and everything changes. The way the whole room looks totally different, and that's a really powerful. I mean, it's simple, right? But we don't sometimes the simplest things are the things we miss, and so we don't necessarily think about things through the lens of like, if I shift a little bit, and that's with situations with real life, you
Mhm.
know, it changes everything.
Oh, no question. Because everything is changing all the time, and we're all energy, and everything is always in motion. And and I also talk to people. It's like the train has left the station, right?
Yep.
And there are still some cars left that you're able to get on, but it's moving.
Right.
So if you want to get on, you need to make a quick decision now, and then we'll work with it. But it is interesting, because stagnation, I believe, is one of the most debilitating things that people can allow to have happen to themselves.
Absolutely. And too many people do let that happen. I say a lot of times our society, the way it's structured is built to create midlife crises, right? Because of the way it's structured and the way that with the pressure we put on kids at 17, 18 years old to decide that the course of the rest of their lives when they've had zero training, zero encouragement, and zero real motivation to look at themselves and say, really, who am I, who do I want to be?
Right.
There's no self-awareness, there's no self-introspection at that point. So I think that mindfulness piece is extremely powerful.
Oh, I think so too, because it does initiate that self-discovery and that self-awareness that just keeps blossoming,
Mhm.
the more you do it. And those are the addictions that you want. You don't want to be self-absorbed. However, you do want to be self-aware.
Absolutely. I like that. That's a good distinction. Self-absorbed versus self-aware.
Right.
There's some folks who talk about themselves all the time, but never look inside, right? And
Yeah.
then it's really about looking inside, not so much talking about yourself. So
Well, that's interesting. Absolutely, because when you are involved with your self-awareness and the changes that you want to make, and you know that you're making the progress, you absolutely just stop talking about it, because it doesn't matter what anybody else has to say about it, because it's developing what you want. And what I really love about this work with people is that they typically discover what it is they want, what they feel that their purpose is in life. And when you have a purpose, it absolutely gets you up in the morning, and it helps you to make, to determine those intentions, make those decisions, and then make those intentions. And then absolutely the actions are much easier to follow through on, because they're in service of your vision of what it is you want.
yeah,
And typically these are all visions that not only serve the purpose of self-fulfillment, these are visions and purposes that are in service of others as well. And that's really, I believe, what makes a person fulfilled.
absolutely. I mean, the ability to create to have a passion or a driving force that really is about serving other people. That's something that, like you said, it gets you up in the morning. But I'm curious how many people come to you and have an illusory purpose, right? A purpose that they think is their purpose, but it really isn't. And until they really take a hard look inside and see, like, oh wait, actually, there's something deeper. There's something
Mm-hmm.
more to this. That's not what I thought it was.
Mm-hmm. Often I find that people are, when we start working together, it's because they want to establish more focus, or more. They want to be more self confident. They want to know how to get to the next level that they think that they want to go to in their profession. And quite often, they find that they, after a period of time and some more self discovery, they don't really want to be in that profession, because that isn't really what lights them up in the morning, right? And
Right.
right, and so I just love that part.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. It's transformational, honestly, right? Like that, and being there to see that moment too, where they see like the light bulb clicks, and it's like, oh wait, I haven't been doing what I really want to do, or
Mhm.
what really lights me up, and having them helping them to explore that, it can be really powerful for sure.
Well, absolutely believe in helping people discover, and I like to expose them to their own strong suits.
Hmm.
Because I believe working with your strong suits leads you in a direction where you're most effective, and then of course, you're most satisfied and can offer more to everybody else. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, for sure. So, of all the roles you've taken on, because I know you've, like I said, you've done many things in the course of your careers. Like I say, plural careers, right? So, what has been aside from now? Because I think based on what you're saying, it sounds like now is really can really light you up. But what was the most impactful in terms of your journey so far, in the course of your life as a professional, as a nurse, and then as a as a consultant and as a coach, and all these different things, all the roles you've taken on? Because you've also been an actress as well, right?
I am, yeah. And it's so fun. Um, and actually, it's very interesting too, because people often ask me, how do these things fit together? And whether I go into a patient's room or their home, or I go out on a set, um, it's very much about being prepared, but it's mostly about listening and interacting and responding. And I think, obviously, response is so much more effective than just reacting, because often reacting is a predetermined knee jerk reaction, right?
Mhm.
And so, of all of the things I've done, I've always said that I've learned the most growing up with my children, and
Mhm.
and now I have three grandchildren. But
Wow.
when the kids were growing up, I didn't want the nanny. I wanted to be able to spend time with them. So I created a position for myself in the law office. I worked part-time so I could have flexibility and spend as much time with the kids. And I felt that my job was really to expose them to as many experiences as possible, because then they have more experience, they have more information to make their own decisions that serve them, right?
Yeah.
What lights them up, right? So I've just loved that part, and I love being a grandmother. In fact, the a few weekends ago, I was in Philly with my daughter and her family, and two of my three grandchildren are there, and Etta is 5 and Asher is 8. And
Mhm.
I took with me, I think you'll appreciate this, I took with me a make your own movie kit.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I do
Right.
appreciate it. Absolutely.
And so you take the backdrops out of the book and, put it out, and you put together different characters with all the little parts and pieces that come with it for character making. And they give you information as to what app you can download on your phone, a stop motion app.
Mhm.
So, you set it all up and you take a still and move the figure just a little bit and take another still, and, on that goes. And then the app will put the still photographs together to make the video. Well, at these kids' ages, it took them hardly any time at all to understand that if they didn't have a clear story, if they didn't set it up
Mhm.
and take the time to do the sequences, then they didn't like the video that they ended up with.
Right.
So that took us to the storyboard and creating a more specific story and how to set it up. And I just thought, oh my gosh, this is just so reflective of what we do every day. Because if we're not paying attention and being specific and intentional about what we're doing every day, then sometimes the year-end review is not so good.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
No, that's absolutely true. And not even just with work, right? But like just with life, right? Like if you're just going through your life,
Right.
I think it's a great analogy, honestly, because if you're going through your life unintentionally without having any kind of plan, any kind of storyboard,
Right.
right? You don't even know you don't know what's coming next. You don't know what you need to do to get to the next level or to the next scene, so to speak, right? So I love that. That's great.
Yeah, and it's and what I really love about having spent so much time with kids, and of course with how many patients and clients and whatnot, but it's all about relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Everything's about relationships. I mean, and when it comes into people, I think that's where the power lies, really, right? It's empowering others and really helping people to be the better version of themselves. I love that.
yeah.
So as we're closing up here, we're coming on time a little bit, but I wanted to get your thoughts on, and here I always ask this question of folks, and we talked about it briefly. Two questions actually. One is going to be what's been one of the most influential books that you've ever read in the course of your life so far that's influenced you?
Well, I have read many. However, the one that I'm studying right now, and you'll see I have quite a few notes, is by Dr. Joe Dispenza, and it's Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Right. And I love that because I mean, and it goes back to what I have been kind of innately doing for a very long time, but now the research, is supporting me in that, and so I'm learning as much as I can about that research, so I can better teach that to other people.
That's awesome. That's really powerful. And what was the premise of the book in terms of like how is it breaking the habit of being yourself?
Well, it's very interesting. It goes back to thinking those so many thoughts a day, and most of the the repetitive thoughts that people typically drag with them all of the time, because that's how the mind really
Mm,
it works. Because the mind is more of a library and a record of everything that has happened. But however, the energy of us and the universe that we live in is always in motion and moving, moving up and forward. And so learning to work with the universal laws and the energy principles, I think, is really critical for people to be able to have not only a satisfying life, but a fulfilling life, because there are a lot more universal laws going, in play other than just gravity. So, but people don't typically talk about those things,
right.
and so I think it's really important to do that, and knowing that there are steps that can be taken through the mindfulness and meditation and building that heart and brain coherence, right? Because the mind is the language. Thoughts are the language of the mind, and feelings are the language of the body.
Hmm.
And of course, the thoughts determine what the emotions are, and sometimes the emotion determines what the next thought is, right? So there's
Yep.
definitely that connection there. So sometimes we do have to say, okay, this habit, this whatever I'm doing is not serving me. It's not allowing me to move forward as I want to. And so those things have to be changed.
I love that. I think that's awesome. I actually pick that up and check that out because it sounds, I mean, integral to what the work we do. I mean, it sounds like it's very, very applicable.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then in the spirit of people, right? We talked about people being a theme of things that inspire us and why we do what we do. Who are some influential people or influential persons in your life that you've encountered over the years as you've been in your various roles you've taken on?
Well, that's another interesting thing too. There have been many, many, but I would actually have to say I learned a great deal from my parents.
Mm,
My father was a farmer, and he was this Rube Goldberg kind of guy who could build or fix anything. And so it was perspective. If it wasn't working, you go around and look at it from another angle and say, what could I do with that? And so that was interesting. And my mom, oh my gosh, she was a fabulous example of just being full of life, and not disregarding all of the tragedies. I mean, I think it was within a 5-year period of time she had relocated, lost both of her parents,
mm,
lost her first husband, and lost her first child. And lost losing her husband to a car accident, and losing her first daughter to a freak accident.
mm.
And she never forgot them, but she just chose not to keep reliving the tragedies. And so, as far as being a beautiful example of a huge heart and resiliency, and I always had a lot of respect for her.
I mean, she sounds like an amazing woman. I mean, going through that, I feel like you know over the years people have tended to dwell. I mean, there's a tendency to dwell in the past and dwell in those kind of tragedies and
Right.
keep reliving them. And like you said earlier, the brain doesn't distinguish between reality and what you're perceiving, and so you're literally reliving that tragedy every single time you think
Oh,
about it
exactly.
deeply.
Yeah. And it's affecting you physically as well, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the same chemicals are being circulated through your body whenever you feel those things. So no,
Yeah.
that's really powerful, and that's their parents sound like amazing folks. So
Yeah.
and I love that you highlighted your parents. I mean, like I think a lot of folks they highlight them a mentor or something like that, but I think ultimately our parents are really the people that shape us the most when they're able to be in our lives.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
awesome. Well,
Yeah.
Catherine, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today and share your story and share everything about you. It's
Oh, thanks.
amazing. And for those of you who've not had a chance to do one-on-one with Catherine, we'll put her contact information below. You can reach out to her and
Thank
learn more about her directly. But thanks again so much, Catherine. Anything you want to leave us with?
I just wanted to say thanks to you. It's always great to see you.
Likewise. No, thanks so much. That's awesome.
Bye.
Well, thank you all so much for tuning in. Again, if you like the video, please hit the like button, hit subscribe, and leave a comment below. Let us know what you thought about the video, any questions you have for Catherine or for myself, and about mindfulness, about otherwise. But thanks again, and tune in next time. We'll do more of these coming soon. And yeah, have a great week. Have a great Memorial Day, and stay safe.